Welcome to the studio at That Nerd Show, and we are speaking with the filmmakers behind Sweat of the Cow, directed by our good friend John Wildman. And so we're going to jump right into it. My first thought after watching this film, if Hallmark movies had that kind of an opening, they would be much more interesting.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, John, start with you. What's the idea behind this? What inspired you to do this film?
Okay, well, Sweat of His Cow is an homage to the cinema wonders of Zalman King, like film, and also other films that you would have on Cinemax. That if you're a teenage boy growing up during that time, that introduced you to the wonders of the world.
Yes.
So that was the inspiration for Sweat of His Cow.
Okay. Now, not going to be a total critic here, but I do think there was one thing missing, and that was David Duchovny narrating it like it's Richard.
Dave's a hard get. He's a hard get.
Yeah. I totally get that. But it's interesting that you talk about Cinemax, where you have these, what they like to make you think are romantic stories, which are really just porn with a plot.
Hey.
Yeah.
Each his own, Mark.
Yeah, well, But Celena, this question is for you. Obviously, you kind of have to be over the top a little bit in playing a character that's not really believable, but at the same time trying to be believable. What is your inspiration for playing the lawyer, doctor, career woman who keeps all of her degrees with her just in case, which I found hilarious? But what's your inspiration for playing a character like that?
I don't really know if I had any inspiration, necessarily. It was just kind of going in and just going with the ridiculousness of it. I mean, I don't know what inspiration I would what have we seen that's that ridiculous? It was just so crazy. But I was like, that was the inspiration enough. It was just like, this is ridiculous. This is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Who does that, right? This is freaking brilliant. This is amazing. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go, to your point, completely over the top, right? You have to.
Because I don't, and some
turn that around. It was good.
I mean, some characters, they're great because there's a subtlety to their actions. This one, you don't have to be subtle. And all right, Chris.
Yes.
A saxophone player that obviously in every 80s romantic movie is always in the background. Again, same question. What is your inspiration for that? Do you actually play sax or?
100%.
I'm sorry?
That's my main passion, is the saxophone. And then second is the piccolo, and then third is just yelling. And then fifth or sixth is making movies. It's the horniest instrument. And so it's just, it's there because it's got a tone to it that just makes people fall in love. And that's
right.
why it's such a beautiful instrument. That's why, jazz players in the 60s, they did so well.
Right.
Romantically.
Yeah, because you never hear about, flute players getting all the girls.
No, you don't. I don't think Zamfir really has as much luck as you'd expect, although he sells more records than the Beatles. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And back to you, John. Do you feel like this doesn't work as well as it does if you didn't have that VHS style with the grainy lines? I mean, if you did this in high def, you feel like it still has, the same. I think, you're trying to capture a very specific
a feeling that we had. I mean, we've talked earlier about that, about, those, anybody who, during that time watched films on VHS and, and would have glitches in the tapes, or, because of rewinding and things like that, and missed exciting scenes because they got garbled or whatever. That's part of that fun. I mean, the truth is, there were some really slickly, produced, stuff with like the Zalman King things as well. But we skewed more toward that earlier period. And again, like I said, I think, it's almost like the difference between LPs, like records, and CDs.
Right.
Like the difference between watching stuff on VHS or beta versus watching them on DVDs or Blu-rays. It's you have those same kind of arguments where people are like, there's a warmth to listening to something on a record, on an LP,
right,
that you don't have on the CD, right? And you have the same, there's the same kind of thing with the VHS versus CD or DVDs, I think.
right. I mean, I think there are some things that are still kind of better on VHS. I still have the original Star Wars trilogy on VHS, which I do watch, but
they made all those changes. It's the only version you can find like that.
Well, we don't acknowledge that here at That Nerd Show, but
oh, I'm sorry.
We're purists, okay? We know who shot first.
I think the VHS effect was sort of always envisioned as part of the way that we made the film, because a lot of, I think what's so funny about it is some of the things that we do where we're playing with form, like where we intentionally insert a very awkward jump cut to cut it so that we can then cover it with static, or those very intentional continuity errors with the sheet around the waist, and then you cut to now it's a toga, like
right.
So that was all, I think, part of the comedy, that's like envisioned with, from the outset.
Right. And here's my other question. Why is this the most steamy or erotic setting where someone just shows up and there's a farmer,
If you have to ask Marcus, you've obviously never been in that situation before.
No, unfortunately, I've never been in that kind of a situation. But I mean, it's like you talk about the ridiculousness of this, and it's like it couldn't, be a construction worker, or I don't know. But I mean, out of all the ideas that you've come up with, why the farmer? Why milking cows?
Well, I mean, listen, an impossibly gorgeous, female doctor lawyer, happens upon an impossibly sweaty man who's milking a cow. What else can happen but sexual fireworks? I mean, it just, it just makes sense.
He's a salt of the earth type, son of the soil.
John, I think you should just admit you wanted an excuse to wear overalls in a film, and that's okay. Lisa, how did you come to this project? I mean, I know you from producing, being in staff. I mean, you obviously, like anybody else, are choosy. But what made you want to be a part of this?
Well, so I initially, I just wanted to make a really fun movie with my friends.
Sure.
I literally, because like we're all really close friends. I think I signed on without even any information. Initially, I was like, yes, like with these people, of course, right? But then, of course, I did love it, and also being a child of the '80s, also like learning about sexuality by just walking through the living room and catching these glimpses of like, what are my parents watching, and
Right.
and just having this. I love the naivete around the way sexuality and sexual relationship formation happens in this film. It's actually like people talk about it like it's steamy. We got a mature content warning at one point, but it's actually so innocent.
Right.
It's like this really like sweet, silly story of like what you think sex is like when you're 10 or 11. You're like, I think that's how it happens. You meet, you say some words, and then you roll around, I guess. I mean, that's like what you think when you're 10 in the '80s, right?
Right.
So, I mean, mostly it was just my friends said, do you want to make this film? And I was like, yes. And I also was really excited about making like a really fun comedy because I don't know what it is about me, but people bring to me very serious, heavy stuff like
Right.
reproductive freedom and violence against women and addiction and grief and loss. And I love those films, but I'm like, I want to do comedy. Like, bring that to
Right.
me. Like, I don't get a lot of those pitches, really.
Okay. And then speaking in terms of, Cinemax, Red Shoe Diaries, all that stuff that, we kind of grew up with, I'm curious to know from everybody, what was probably the most ridiculous thing you ever saw in that format? Besides this, obviously you captured it perfectly, cows, John, and everything. But is there something that you saw that was so ridiculous that was never completely believable? Does anybody have an example? And the reason I ask is I have the perfect example of, and I'll give you my answer to see where I'm going with this question, of your world colliding. Because literally my favorite Red Shoe Diaries is David Duchovny from the X-Files narrating, and Denise Crosby from Star Trek, who captures a guy in a warehouse and everything just, goes crazy. And, for the little nerd boy out there that's,
Elaborate on goes crazy. Talk more about that.
Well, I mean, again, grabbing a construction worker and straddling him in the warehouse where he's working.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you grow up with Star Trek and you like, gosh, Tasha Yar is gorgeous. And then you see her in Red Shoe Diaries, it's like, she got nude. So, but again, the ridiculousness. So I'm curious if there's ever anything that you ever came across that you just thought was so over the top and ridiculous.
I think there was an episode where there were it was an apartment building, and across the street was an office building, and so the man and the woman could see each other through the window, and then the relationship was developed by him faxing her. and he would fax like instructions on how to strip and whatever, and so she would do that, and it was via fax. So somehow, they had to make you believe that like she was waiting for the fax to slowly come out and tell her what item of clothing to take off next.
Nothing sexier than a fax.
Man, that's like living in the future. That's crazy. I love erotic sci-fi.
Yeah, but could you imagine like trying to, photocopy a dirty pics and then faxing it?
Oh my God. Just the sound of a dot matrix printer. Gets my blood boiling.
Anybody else have a great example? Like I said, I'm curious.
Oh, what I've described the film, I usually say it's a softcore porn spoof, or I'll say like maybe like a cross between Airplane and Red Shoe Diaries. But
Right.
then I do think that tonally some of what I mean when I say that is captured in Naked Gun. Like there's some funny eroticism in Naked Gun. So I think that was tonally kind of what I was going for and thinking of when I was working on the edit.
That's what I always, what I got, like, was the whole the whole Naked Gun Airplane kind of vibe.
Right.
Just stupid, like just random, or like just ridiculous, right?
Right.
And it's funny to me. This is my favorite kind of films to watch. These are just funny.
God, yeah, this is why I miss Leslie Nielsen. of all the time in society when we need Naked Gun type movies.
Yes.
Okay, to Celena again. Getting to, not that we talk a lot about fashion with that nerd show, but again, I'm curious because you have this very corporate short skirt, again, kind of over the top, like that's because I expect actually a doctor lawyer to always wear something like that.
Yeah.
Did you kind of pick your own wardrobe, or was that left up to John and Lisa?
That was left up to them, honey child. And let me tell you something. When I came on to set and I saw that I got to wear this looked so good, I was like, all right now.
Yeah. So I actually am a lawyer, and her suit was one of my suits that I used to wear. Now, I did not wear it with the red corset that we bought special.
Right.
I do think that's funny every time I see her wearing my corporate lawyer costume.
It was just like this alter ego of mine. I'm like, I'm Celena and I do my thing. And then, I'm like, ooh, okay, now I just felt sexy. I still have pictures on my phone from like on set, just like behind the scenes. And then I had this makeup with this stick. Something I would never wear, but like, I think I still have it or something. I can't remember. I mean, it was just, I don't know. I loved it.
Another thought. I watched it this week, and I watched it literally after the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, verdict, and I'm like, gosh, if Amber Heard only had that lawyer outfit, or her lawyers had that, it would be a whole new. Anyway, so it's obviously a short. Is this something that you want to expand on, or a series of shorts that are spoofs, or is this kind of a one-off for you, John?
I mean, I don't think we would expand on this story in particular. But I do like the idea of doing a series of short sketch ideas and things like that. I was actually told by Justina, my wife, I'll say that for people who are watching this that don't know us, that I needed to make more of these, because by dropping something like this every 4 or 5 years, everybody's going, holy crap, you do this thing? You do this as well? And it's like going, that she's going, you need to put one of these out at least every year, if not more, to get everybody used to this is your sense of humor, and this is it's actually in your head. So yeah, so I think we'll be making a lot more of the silliness shorts.
We need more silliness in the world. This is what we need. People need to laugh, and people need to like just let it go.
Yeah. So, and I liked how it ended, but I also thought there could have been at least another minute of, if you're like me, where you had a friend who had an older brother who had all the nudie magazines and bootleg cable and everything else, trying to explain what you just saw, as his weird way of instructing you on sex, which never goes well.
Do we need another minute where we explain where babies come from? Is that because we can sidebar?
She shows up months later. I have something to tell you. All right, so I'm going to get to our nerdy questions here, and I'm going to start with Celena because I've never asked you this question. It's the one question that we ask all of our filmmakers.
Okay.
And then the rest of these guys will get my curveball questions.
Okay.
So here you go. If you could have a weapon of choice or a superpower to fight the forces of evil, what would you choose?
Okay, you cut out in that last part. If I could have a weapon of choice
or a superpower to fight the forces of evil, what would you choose?
Oh, let's see. Weapon of choice? Ooh, I don't know about a weapon of choice. I would like to be able to read people's minds, maybe? But would I really want that? I don't know.
I don't think you want that.
Yeah.
No.
Sometimes
I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it will probably be beneficial if you're a lawyer. However, in this situation, within the setting of the film, probably not so much.
Yeah, it's
A
true.
good one. All right, my curveball questions, because we were talking about this earlier this year. What would you consider the worst superpower, or the superpower that you just don't want to have? And that's for Lisa, Chris, and John. And I'm going to start with Lisa.
Oh gosh. I mean, well, now I can't get hearing people's or reading people's minds out of my head. Is like, what a nightmare that would be. That does sound kind of awful.
22.
Yeah. Because it's like, are you just listening to everybody's chatter all the time? Like, I don't even want to listen to my own, you know. So I think that, yeah, it's like I really want less voices in my head, you know.
All right.
Not more.
Chris, how about you?
It's that superpower where you like die really painfully. I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah, Wolverine, every time they tried to kill him, it always seemed very, very painful.
Well, he's got an adamantium endoskeleton. And
but I mean, he has to be shot first.
Yeah.
You know,
he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think we all learned that Wolverine has comeback power that he has not earned.
Very true. And John, how about you?
Well, you know, I think, you know, what's the whole thing of people that can hear everybody's thoughts is that they can't shut them out, and that's like that's like a constant theme in you know, whether it's superheroes in DC or Marvel. It's like, you know, trying to focus and shut out stuff. So that's a pain. But that's the thing, is like nobody ever talks about, like, even like the ability to heal immediately, is that you still feel the pain.
Right.
And so that's the thing. I think you know, like each one of those you know, has that, you know, negative, you know, aspect of it. Even like, you know, someone like Storm, you go, well, you know, you're still beholden to the Weather Channel. So, you know, so it's like, yeah, you may be able to control things, but now you have to like worry about programming on the Weather Channel if you're Storm, right? So I think every superpower has a negative that nobody actually really talks about.
You know, just because this is Texas and this was done in Texas, this is kind of my favorite ironic thing about Texas related to Storm. About the time that the first X-Men movie came out, Texas actually, under Rick Perry, put aside money to build a weather control system. That was part of the
budget. To keep out Halle Berry?
They never said it was directly because of that, but I just find it coincidental that this movie came out with someone who can control the storm, and Texas is putting money towards a weather control system.
We saw what you did to Alan Cumming in that movie. We don't want you coming here and doing that to us.
Yeah. So, you know, Texas and their science programs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Anyway.
Everything you read is true in Texas.
Exactly. Well, it was a extremely hilarious short. For those that know you, John, we love your sense of humor. And yeah, I think there's a whole series of stuff that you can do that, you know, of great spoofs from a bygone era that that's very nostalgic when it comes to things on VHS. And I like to remind younger people that have grown up with free porn sites and HD. I'm like, you just don't know the struggle. All that. And you know how you learned how to repair VHS tapes and made sure you didn't cut out the good parts. So thank you very much for doing an interview with us. Again, it was perfect. Chris, we do fully expect some more saxophone play at the Oak Cliff Film Festival. We're calling you out for that.
Yeah, we've actually pivoted to an entirely sax-based festival.
Yes.
It's a niche audience, but I think they're really going to respond to it. If you like nothing but saxophone, you'll find a lot to love.
And Celena, because I never had a chance to interview you for The Last Whistle a few years ago at the Best of Best and stuff, which you were great in. But great at comedy as well, and look forward to seeing you do more of that.
Thank you. I hope to do more for sure.